You really thought you could park betrayal in my driveway? The sound from my wife's phone sliced through the quiet like a box cutter. Kelly snatched it before I could even glance over, pressed it to her chest like state secrets, and headed for the bathroom without meeting my eyes. Privacy rules, Ethan, she said through the door. Everyone deserves privacy. Privacy rules. Sure. Nothing says healthy marriage like treating a smartphone like classified documents. My name is Ethan Walker. I am 37, and I fix computer problems for a living. Which also means I know exactly how much digital evidence people leave behind when they think they are being clever. My wife apparently missed that memo. The signs had been stacking up for weeks. Late-night work calls that required stepping outside. Girls' nights that ended with her coming home scented like a cologne I could not afford. The wardrobe shift, too. Kelly started dressing for her marketing job like she was auditioning for a fragrance commercial, not scheduling posts for brands. But the phone changed everything. She used to leave it on the counter like everybody else. Suddenly, it traveled with her everywhere, even to the shower. Last Tuesday, I asked to check the weather because my phone was charging upstairs. Use your own, she snapped. That was the moment I did what any self-respecting information technology consultant would do. I started paying attention to the details. Kelly worked at Summit Creative, a mid-sized marketing shop downtown. Her boss was Daniel Reed, mid-40s, divorced, drove a black BMW. He parked next to Kelly's Honda Civic every morning, something she mentioned often, along with how understanding Daniel was about flexible schedules and how he really got her creative vision. The first hard proof arrived on a Thursday night. Kelly was in the shower, and her iPad sat on the kitchen counter, unlocked and signed into her personal accounts. A banner from a group chat with her friends Lauren and Megan slid across the screen. Lauren, you are glowing lately. New skincare? Kelly, something like that. Work has been very rewarding. Megan, is Daniel treating you right? Kelly, he knows exactly how to handle me. I screenshotted that exchange faster than you can say marital evidence, then kept digging. Her Venmo history showed payments tied to places I had never heard of, pricey downtown restaurants, a hotel bar, and a boutique wine shop that sells bottles for more than our monthly grocery bill. The timestamps lined up perfectly with her late meetings and client dinners. Instagram told the same story. Kelly had been liking Daniel's photos for months. Beach shots from last summer, gym selfies, the black BMW. He returned the favor, hitting the heart on every single one of her posts with the kind of consistency you only get when notifications are turned on for one person's life. The smoking tool came from an unexpected source. Our neighbor, Mrs. Ramirez. She is 73 and runs a one-woman neighborhood watch from behind her living room window. Ethan, honey, she said, cornering me at the mailbox. Is everything all right with you and Kelly? Why do you ask? Well, I have seen that fancy BMW in your driveway a few times when you are at work. And yesterday, I watched Kelly get out of it around lunchtime. Her hair looked tousled. She said it gently, the way only a veteran of front porch diplomacy can. The message was still clear. My wife was bringing her boss to our house for activities that did not require a calendar invite. That evening, I tested a theory. How about dinner at Romano's Trattoria? I asked, the same place I saw in her Venmo history. I am not in the mood for Italian, she said too quickly. Besides, that place is overpriced. Interesting, I said, considering someone spent $87 there last Tuesday during a client lunch. How do you know it is overpriced? Been there lately? There was a tiny pause, just a hairline crack, but I heard it. Lauren mentioned it, she said. She said it was not worth the money. Lauren, who teaches school and considers Olive Garden a splurge. Sure. I smiled, said nothing, and started the backup routine I should have started weeks ago. I decided it was time to bring in backup. My best friend, Noah Grant, slings drinks at Harper's Tap, the kind of place where folks come to rinse the day out of their skulls and, if they are not careful, tell a bartender their life story. Noah has been my wingman since college, solid as a torque wrench, loyal in ways money cannot buy. I need a favor, I told him over beers that Friday. Kelly has been acting off. I think she is cheating. Noah's face went flat. He never loved Kelly's customer service smile or the way she talked down to waitstaff. What do you need, Ethan? Information. Her boss is Daniel Reed. Black BMW. Mid-40s. If he shows up here with a woman who looks like my wife, I want to know. You got it, brother, he said. The call came 3 days later. Get down here. Now. I found them tucked into a corner booth, sharing a bottle of wine that cost more than a car payment. Kelly wore a red dress I had never seen. Daniel's hand rested on her thigh like he had a lease on it. They leaned into each other, laughing at some private joke, the kind of easy rhythm that takes time to build. I stayed at the end of the bar for 20 minutes. I took photos. I watched the way they moved. This was not a quick fling. This was a full-on relationship. Inside jokes, comfortable silences, a language that did not include me. When Kelly went to the restroom, Daniel pulled out his phone and fired off a text. 30 seconds later, Kelly's phone lit up inside her purse. Even from across the room, I saw the smile she saved for him. That was the moment it clicked. This was not about a rough patch or a midlife wobble. Kelly had already moved out of our marriage. She just had not packed a suitcase yet. The next morning, I brewed coffee for two and waited at the kitchen table. She came down in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel. I slid a manila folder across the table. "What is this?" she asked, though her voice said she knew. "Your annual review," I said, calm as I could make it. "Looks like your time at Summit Creative has been very hands-on." She opened the folder and went pale. Inside, printouts of Venmo payments, screenshots of Instagram activity, the photos from Harper's, and a tidy timeline of her movements for the last month. Organized the way an information technology guy organizes a problem he intends to fix. "Ethan, I can explain." "No," I said. "You cannot. There is no version that makes this all right. You have been lying for months, bringing your boyfriend to our house, and spending our money on your little romance. The only question is whether you want to end this with a little dignity or take the hard way." "What hard way?" I held up my phone with a contact card. "Jennifer Reed. Turns out Daniel's wife is on Facebook. Seems nice. I am sure she would love to learn how her divorce settlement is being allocated." Kelly went from white to green. He told me they were separated. They are, as of last month. Funny thing about divorce cases, adultery muddies the math. Photographs do a lot of talking. For the first time in months, she looked at me like I was not background noise. "What do you want?" "I want you to pack your things and move out today. Stay with Lauren, Megan, or whoever has been cheering you on. Transfer your half of the savings into your own account. Call it a head start on your new life. And tell Daniel that if he steps foot on my property again, Jennifer gets a very detailed photo album." "And if I do not?" I smiled. It must not have been friendly, because she took a step back. "Then I stopped being nice. I have enough proof to make both of your lives messy. Daniel has a reputation in his industry. You have a career built on trust and brand image. How does that play when people learn you spent months lying to your husband?" She stared at the folder, then looked up with something like respect and something like fear. "When did you get so cold?" "Right around the time you decided our vows were guidelines." She packed that afternoon while I sat in the living room with coffee, listening to drawers slide and suitcase zippers carve the air. When she came down with 2 bags, she paused at the door. "For what it is worth, Ethan, I am sorry it ended like this." "No, you are not," I said, eyes on the newspaper. "You are sorry you got caught. There is a difference." After she left, I called Noah to say it was handled. Then I called a locksmith and changed the locks. I ordered a large pepperoni, cracked a cold beer, and let the quiet of the house settle in. It felt strange, realizing I actually had things to celebrate. Clarity, for one. A clean exit path, for another. Apparently, Kelly and Daniel were not ready to accept their new reality. The first shot came the next week when my boss called me into his office. Martin Cole has run Heartland IT Solutions for 15 years. He is a direct, no-nonsense kind of manager, the sort you want in your corner. "Ethan, I got an odd call yesterday," he said, closing the door. "Someone claiming to be a former client says you were unprofessional during a service visit. Allegedly, you made inappropriate comments about their personal life." That old cold feeling slid into my chest. "What kind of comments?" "They say you accused them of having an affair and threatened to expose their personal information. They want to file a complaint." "I have never done anything like that," I said. "Can you tell me who called?" Martin glanced at his notes. Name was Daniel Reed. Said you worked on his company's network last month. Bingo. Daniel wanted me unemployed. Maybe thought it would scare me into silence. "2 problems with that," I said. "I have never worked with Summit Creative, that is Kelly's company, or Daniel. And I keep tight records." I gave Martin the short, professional version of recent events and focused on the retaliation angle, not the mess at home. He listened like he always does, steady, patient. So, he is retaliating because you exposed his affair with your wife, Martin said. That is my read. Well, his story is already shaky. We have no service tickets for Summit Creative. And for what it is worth, you are one of the most professional technicians I have. I am filing this under personal vendetta and forgetting it happened. Thank you, I said. If it escalates, I will keep you posted. I do not like anyone playing games with my livelihood. Nor do I, he said. Watch your six. Daniel's next move got more creative. Friend requests started landing from brand new accounts. Obvious catfish with stolen photos and empty bios. When I did not bite, anonymous messages began trickling in across platforms. The theme was identical. I was a controlling husband who drove Kelly away with jealousy and paranoia. Whoever wrote them knew enough details to be dangerous, but the tone was overcooked, like a man coming apart under stress. I guess learning that affairs have consequences was not on Daniel's vision board. I screenshotted everything and tucked it into the growing evidence folder on my desktop. If he wanted to play, I was happy to keep score and keep receipts. The bigger problem surfaced when Kelly started working our mutual friends. Lauren and Megan have always been her people, so losing them was expected. What surprised me was the couples in our circle who suddenly stopped replying to invites, or who pivoted their carts at the grocery store to avoid me. It turned out Kelly was running a more polished campaign than I gave her credit for. The confrontation finally came at Noah's birthday 3 weeks later. I had been looking forward to it. A simple night out in the back room at Harper's Tap, a chance to see folks who knew the real story. But the temperature dropped 10 degrees the second I walked in. Our group is small and tight by design. Noah and his girlfriend Emily, Adam and Jenna Wallace who run a local accounting firm, Mark and Susan Reed, no relation to Daniel, just the same last name, and usually Kelly and me, though that part had obviously changed. What I did not expect was to find Kelly already there, parked at the far end of the table like she still belonged. Ethan, Noah called a little too brightly. Glad you made it. I caught the tension in his shoulders. This was not his idea. Surprised to see Kelly, I said, sliding into the empty chair across from her. It is my birthday, Noah said carefully. I invited everyone. Kelly lifted a glass, something pink and priced to impress. I have just as much right to be here as you. Actually, you do not, I said, calm as a torque spec. These are my friends. You are the one who blew up our life for your boss. The table went quiet. Adam cleared his throat. Jenna studied her napkin like it held instructions. Maybe we just focus on celebrating Noah's birthday, Jenna suggested. Great idea, Kelly said, raising her glass higher. To new beginnings, and to leaving toxic situations behind. The passive-aggressive dig was so on the nose, it was almost funny. What was not funny was the way Mark and Susan nodded along like Kelly was the wrong party, and I had shoved her into the arms of Daniel Reed myself. I felt the old anger try to climb my throat. I swallowed it, set my hands flat on the table, and reminded myself why I had brought a folder full of facts instead of a chip on my shoulder. If Kelly wanted to run a narrative, I would counter with the only thing that ever holds up, the record. Interesting perspective, I said, keeping my voice level. Help me out, Kelly. How exactly was I toxic? Was it when I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for your car? When I backed your career switch? Or maybe it was when I did not file for divorce the first time you lied to my face. You were controlling and paranoid, she shot back. You monitored my phone, tracked my spending, and accused me of things without proof. I had plenty of proof, I said. I gave you the chance to come clean before I used it. Emily leaned forward, eyes on me. What kind of proof? I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photos from Harper's Tap. The kind that shows your friend having romantic dinners with her married boss while telling me she was working late. The pictures made their slow lap around the table. I watched shoulders sag and expressions change as people realized we were not arguing about miscommunication or a rough patch. This was a straight-line affair with photographs to match. Kelly was not finished. Those pictures do not show what you think. Daniel and I have a professional relationship. We were discussing a client project. Is that what you call it when his hand is on your thigh? I asked. Client relations? Susan Reed spoke up for the first time. Kelly, is this true? Were you having an affair? Her composure wobbled. It is complicated. Ethan and I have had problems for months. Daniel was just supportive. Supportive, I repeated. Is that what we call adultery now? You do not understand what it was like, Kelly said, her voice rising. Living with someone who questioned everything I did, who made me feel like a prisoner in my own home. That did it. I had been trying to keep things civil for Noah's sake. The revisionist history snapped something in me. I stood. Something in the way I breathed made the whole room go still. A prisoner. I said, "You mean like when I encouraged you to take the job at Summit Creative? Or when I paid for your night classes? Or when I gave you full access to our joint accounts and never questioned a single purchase until you started dropping our money at hotel bars with your boyfriend?" "Ethan," Noah started. "No. Let me finish," I said, eyes on Kelly. "You want to talk about feeling trapped? Try finding out your wife has been lying for months. Try learning that the person you trusted most has been making a fool of you in plain view. Try hearing your neighbor say she has seen your wife's lover's car in your driveway while you are at work." Kelly's face went paper white. She had not known Mrs. Ramirez had eyes like an eagle and a perfect angle on our street. "And the best part," I went on, "even now, even after you were caught red-handed, you are still lying. You are sitting here trying to make me the villain because I noticed my wife was cheating on me and refused to pretend otherwise." Silence swallowed the room. Kelly scanned the faces around the table, searching for a friendly harbor. All she found were tight mouths and people studying their napkins. "I think I should go," she said quietly. "Yeah," I said. "You probably should." After Kelly left, the party crept back to life, but the mood had shifted. People chose their words like they were walking a minefield. It was not hostility, it was caution. And underneath the small talk, I could see it on their faces. They finally understood. This was not a mutual failure. This was betrayal, plain and simple. Later, as the cake plates stacked up and the music softened, Noah pulled me aside. "I am sorry about that," he said. "She called me yesterday and said you were spreading lies." She sounded torn up. "She is upset because she got caught," I said. "There is a difference." "Yeah," he said, nodding at the phone in my hand. "Those photos. I had no idea it was that blatant." "Most people do not advertise their affairs," I said. Kelly and Daniel thought they were being subtle. Noah rubbed a hand across his jaw. "What now?" "Now I move on," I said. Kelly made her choice. She gets to live with it. But Daniel Reed apparently had other plans. The harassment ramped up over the next few weeks. My work email started filling with junk from questionable signups. Somebody, I wonder who, subscribed me to dozens of mailing lists, political campaigns, coupon clubs, and random newsletters. Then my home address popped up in Craigslist posts offering free furniture and appliances. All day, strangers knocked on my door looking for a free leather sectional I did not own. The pranks were juvenile but relentless, and they had Daniel's fingerprints all over them. He was trying to make my life annoying enough that I would back off my promise to send Jennifer Reed a very thorough photo album. Unfortunately for Daniel, I have spent my career dealing with far uglier digital headaches. Script kiddies trying to crash client networks, ransomware attacks that lock accounting systems at tax time, and phishing schemes slick enough to fool a banker. Compared to that, his little campaign was noise. I documented everything, tightened my filters, and added each new incident to the evidence folder. If he wanted to keep score, I would keep the ledger. Every message, every fake profile, every knock at my door, time-stamped and ready for the day he finally realized the bill was coming due. Compared to the people who actually break into banks and hospitals, Daniel was playing with finger paint. I documented everything, traced what I could without crossing a legal line, and tucked each piece into my growing folder. Then I stopped reacting and started planning. The opening came when Noah mentioned that Summit Creative was looking for a new information technology contractor. Their previous vendor had bailed after a billing dispute, and they needed someone to tighten their security and clean up bad habits. "You should bid," Noah said. "Good money, and you could use the work." "You know what?" I said, smiling. "I think I will." I wrote a proposal that was competitive and boring in all the right ways. Clear scope, clean pricing, and exactly what Summit needed. Firewall hardening, password hygiene, endpoint protection, and sane backup policies. I had the credentials, the references, and the track record. The fact that an award would give me legitimate, documented admin access to their systems? Happy coincidence. Daniel tried to block me, of course, but he came in too hot. When the other partners asked why he was dead set against hiring a qualified contractor with solid references, he could not explain without dragging in his personal life. "We should explore other options," he kept saying. which is not an argument when your other options are a shrug and a wish. I got the contract. The work itself was straightforward. I upgraded the firewall, enforced multi-factor authentication, rolled out a password manager, and installed endpoint security that does not go to sleep when you need it. All standard corporate maintenance I could do half awake. It also meant I had legitimate access, by contract, to the mail server, network logs, and user activity records. That is part of the job. You cannot secure what you cannot see. What I saw was better than I hoped, and worse than they imagined. Daniel had been running his personal life through the company network like it was a private club. His work email was stuffed with messages to divorce attorneys, real estate brokers, and financial advisors, all sent during office hours. There were calendar holds for lunch strategy that magically lined up with boutique wine bars and hotel lounges. Every bit of it lived on Summit systems. Worse were the messages between Daniel and Kelly. Not a handful, hundreds, going back months. Many were during work hours. They covered everything. Their relationship, how to handle me, even little tactical notes. Kelly had forwarded Daniel bits of my schedule, details about my friends, and comments from arguments she had with me at home. Then came the real gold, Daniel's correspondence with other employees. He had been sending messages that crossed every line in a handbook, comments about appearance, personal questions that had no business in a manager's inbox, invitations that read like traps. None of it was criminal, but all of it was gross and risky. I did what I always do, compiled a clean report. Dates, subjects, message headers intact, screenshots where appropriate, server logs showing timestamps and originating addresses. I organized it by category: personal business on company time, inappropriate internal messages, and the Daniel, Kelly thread, with a short summary at the front that any non-technical partner could understand. Then I requested a meeting with Summit's senior partners. "Gentlemen," I said, sliding copies across the table. "During the security audit, I found several network usage patterns you should be aware of. These are policy and liability issues more than technical ones." The conversation lasted 2 hours. There were quiet moments, a few angry ones, and a lot of long stares at paper that did not lie. By the end, Daniel's employment was terminated for cause, access revoked, laptop surrendered. The partners called their legal team before I reached the elevator. I was not finished. Jennifer Reed, Daniel's soon-to-be ex, received a carefully curated packet, limited to what mattered to the divorce: timelines, spending patterns, and messages relevant to where the money went during the separation. Her attorney, as it turned out, had been looking for proof of hidden assets and conduct that might shift the settlement. My packet did not argue. It showed. Kelly learned about Daniel's exit the hard way. She showed up at Summit for what she thought was a lunch date, and instead watched security walk Daniel through the lobby with a banker's box and a face like he had swallowed a battery. She called that night, voice on fire. "You did this," she said. "You got Daniel fired." "Daniel got Daniel fired," I said. I handed his employer's documentation of his activities. "You vindictive bastard. He has a family to support. He should have thought of that before he started harassing me. Actions have consequences, Kelly. You both seem allergic to that idea." "This is not over." "Yes, it is," I said, calm as a level. "Daniel's marketing career is finished. No one lines up to hire a manager terminated for cause in the middle of a messy divorce with written evidence of adultery. Keep seeing him if you want. I hope your job pays well. You may be supporting 2 people. She hung up, but I could hear the desperation under the anger. The soft life she had curated was evaporating, and for the first time she understood the real cost of her choices. The coup de grace landed a month later when Kelly's own job went sideways. Turns out their relationship had been an open secret at Summit, and a few clients started asking hard questions about professional standards and brand risk. Summit's partners do not like risk. Neither do their clients. When the people who pay the invoices get nervous, the world gets very small, very fast. With Daniel gone and Kelly's name scorched by association, the partners at Summit Creative did what companies always do when the optics get ugly. They cut a clean line. Kelly was let go with 2 weeks of severance and a carefully neutral reference that sounded polite on paper and poisonous between the lines. She tried one last pass at a comeback. It was a rainy Thursday, the kind that makes the world smell like wet concrete. She showed up at my door, our former door, eyes red, apology ready. "Ethan, I made a mistake." A huge mistake. I know that now. I looked at her standing on the porch where we used to share takeout and summer sunsets and felt curious, I guess. The woman who used to be the center of my world was now just a familiar stranger. Yes, I said. Several mistakes, actually. Can we try again? I know I hurt you, but we had something good once. We could have it again. No, we could not, I said gently. Because I could never trust you again. And without trust, we do not have anything. I will do whatever it takes to earn it back. Kelly, you spent months lying to my face. You brought another man into our house and used our money to fund your affair. When I showed you proof, you tried to make me the villain. When that failed, you worked the rumor mill and turned friends against me. And when your boyfriend started harassing me, you cheered him on. I stopped there and let it land. The woman I married would never have done those things, I said. So either you were never who I thought, or you have become someone else entirely. Either way, that person is gone, and I am not interested in whoever is left. She broke then, real, raw sobs, the kind that only show up when you finally understand some mistakes do not come with a reset button. Where am I supposed to go? She asked. What am I supposed to do? I do not know, I said, and I meant it. But that is not my problem anymore. You made your choices, Kelly. Now you get to live with them. I closed the door, went back to my quiet house, my steady evening, and a life without sirens going off every time a phone buzzed. 6 months slid by. Noah told me Kelly had moved back in with her parents and picked up a retail job while she hunted for something in her field. Daniel landed at a small agency 2 states away, fresh stationery, same habits, I would bet. I felt no triumph in any of it, but I did not feel sympathy either. They built their situation, one decision at a time. Now they were standing in it. Me? I was better than I had been in years. Work stayed busy. My friendships survived the blast radius. I started seeing someone, Rachel Moore, a veterinarian who had never been married to anyone, let alone cheated on them. Rachel laughs easy and asks straight questions. It turns out that is a good combination. The house felt different now, lighter somehow. I repainted, switched the curtains, replaced old frames with new photos, and boxed up the last leftovers from the Kelly years. The place is smaller than our big, glossy dreams used to be. It is also honest. That part matters. One evening, I was grilling on the back patio when Mrs. Ramirez called over the fence. Ethan, honey, you look happy. I am, I said, and I realized it was true as it left my mouth. Good for you. You deserve better than all that drama. Thank you, Mrs. Ramirez. I appreciate what you did, telling me what you saw. She waved it off. I just said what was in front of me. You were the one who had the backbone to act. That night, with the house quiet and a book open on my lap, I looked back without flinching. Kelly and Daniel tried to cast me as the villain, controlling, vindictive, because I would not take their betrayal politely. But the story is simpler than that. When Kelly broke our vows, I documented the facts and ended the marriage. When Daniel tried to mess with my job, I defended myself using contracts, policy, and law. When they both tried to smear my name, I presented evidence and let the record talk. None of it was revenge. It was cause and effect. The devastation they felt did not come from my cruelty. It came from their choices colliding with consequences. Kelly wanted privacy rules that meant she could cheat without fallout. Daniel wanted freedom that meant he could harass me and keep his title. Both learned the same lesson. Privacy and freedom are not shields. They are responsibilities. Break them, and you pay. I finished my chapter, clicked off the lamp, and went to bed in a home that finally felt like mine. No alarms. No lies. Just clean air and a door that only opens to people who knock straight. For the first time in months, I slept all the way to morning. No bad dreams. No second guessing. Knowing the best revenge is not rage or spectacle. It is refusing to let people dodge the price of their own choices, and choosing a life so honest, the noise cannot get in.